Week 2 of preseason is closing out, heading into week 3 of our preseason, going this much closer to opening day. Guys, we are almost there. You're listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Fans Only Sports Network. I'm Adam Wright and CJ Medieros. We'll be talking about Tom Brady's banged-up return to a banged-up Buccaneers team. We'll also be addressing Baker Mayfield being named the Week 1 starter, among other things, and joining us to help with all of these, Brady Cuoto. He is the host of the Sports Saga Podcast. Man, we've been trying to get you on for a very long time. Welcome to the show. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you. All right, so I apologize. Cuoto.
It's Cuoto. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. No worries. Oh my God, I get it all the time. So, I co-host the Sports Saga Podcast with Keegan Hamlet and Tyler Sumner, some other Dean Bulldogs as well. And when I'm not in the podcast studio or not conjuring some crazy idea, I'm at the action track of the East. I'm at Seacock Speedway every Friday night doing some announcing over there. So, something I've wanted to do for a very long time. I've been very blessed and very fortunate. Really since 2019 when I started. I was at Case High School for a little bit. I was doing some athletics over there and with the Swansea Cable Network. Now it's the Swansea Community Network, was cable access when I was there. Unfortunately, we kind of got forced out, and that led me to the Speedway. That led me to starting the podcast. Now my latest endeavor is guest hosting the Fumblerooski podcast. So thank you guys again for having me on, and I'm looking forward to a great episode.
That's right, man. Happy to have you, and it is indeed going to be a great episode, and we're going to lead off with Baker Mayfield being named the Week 1 starter by the Panthers. And I talked to you guys a little bit about this off air, but this coming basically a week after Deshaun Watson's suspension was extended to 11 games, and on Week 1, Baker Mayfield and the Panthers are going to be playing the Browns. So, what do you guys think of this? I'll start with you, Brady. Do things get dicey here? What do you think?
Well, first and foremost, they made the right decision. I just want to put that out there. I think it should have been it shouldn't have been an open competition. It should have been a no contest, Mayfield over Darnold, whatever. But dicey. There's going to be, that's a huge storyline going into this, right? Is that we now know Deshaun Watson's not playing for 11 games, which I have my opinion on that. I think that was far too short of a punishment, but it's my opinion. And I just want to see, because correct me if I'm wrong, it's in Carolina, right? Do we know?
I'll have to look at that. I haven't.
Because I thought it was. I just wasn't 100% sure.
Check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep talking. CJ will check.
Because that's going to be the X factor, I think. Because if it's in Cleveland, forget about it. He's going to get booed. I think the Browns will win the game.
But if it's in Carolina, by the way,
it's in Carolina. So then that cancels out kind of what I was going to say. Where I think when you talk about dicey, I don't think there's going to be that extracurricular activity, the stupid roughing the passers and the sideline brawls. I don't think we're going to see anything like that. But at the same time, I feel like that this offseason is going to live a little rent-free in Baker's head. And that may affect his performance a little bit. I think the Browns are going to win the game. And I think part of it is because Baker's psyche might be a little bit off, seeing how it's his first game in the black, white, and blue of Carolina. And he's playing against the team that he basically said, oh, screw you. You know what I mean? Where I think it's going to be not so much dicey physical, but it's the mental. Like, Cleveland won the game mentally, as much as the amount of controversy that's already been surrounding Watson. And I know Jacoby Brissett's the quarterback, blah, blah, blah. Well, Brissett's not a bad quarterback, number one. Number two, this is all in Baker's head. It's the bottom line.
Yeah, it is certainly in Baker's head, and the way he's been talking about it, especially this offseason. He wanted to get traded. He wanted out of that off that team for a long time. But CJ, what do you think?
Now, some people are how do I put this? They're like, oh my God, the Panthers did this because they know it's going to be, they're going to be facing the Browns week 1. To which I say, was there really any doubt? There is no way in hell they were going to start Sam Darnold over Baker Mayfield. This is a fact. But I do think that the Browns-Panthers matchup totally had something to do with it, and I'm with that. I am. But I don't think that's the reason. We all know Baker Mayfield's better. And Brady, you're a guest, but I respectfully disagree. I think it works the other way. I think Baker's now got the chip on his shoulder. He's fired up. He's going to want to come out and put his old team in his place. Can he do that? I don't know. But I think the intensity's there, and he's going to be out for blood week 1.
Yeah, looking at it, I think he's certainly going to be out for blood for week 1, as CJ so eloquently put it. But like whether or not he will get blood is a completely different conversation. He has a good chance at it because he has a good team around him now. But like what we know for sure is we know how Baker is. He loves making gestures. He loves, being all cocky and everything. He's got confidence. He has swagger. He's going to want to show that towards the Browns. And I can guarantee you there will be something that he does, some sort of touchdown celebration. Maybe he'll point to the front office. Maybe he'll point somewhere upstairs, something. He'll do something. He'll point to the sideline. He'll point to the coach. He's going to do something. He will, because he's pissed off at the team. He's pissed off at them for, he showed his loyalty to the team, which I will say he did do that. And they gave up on him for a quarterback who's clearly unreliable and who is now suspended 11 games. That is a recipe for Baker Mayfield coming out and doing something. He's going to find something to do, and it's going to go viral, and it's going to be funny.
I mean, again, I don't disagree, but I don't know. I just feel like something is going to happen where, you know what? If Baker really moved on from the Cleveland Browns, he wouldn't. And we know if, let's say, he runs it in for a touchdown, right? We know, like you just said, some gesture will be made. Point office, I don't know. But I really think if he moved on from them, it'd just be another touchdown.
Oh yeah,
where yes, we know it's going to be there, but at the same time, I just, as much as I don't think the Panthers are going to win, and as much as we're that chip may be on that shoulder, that's very true. It's going to be there. I just think his attention is still going to be, it's the Browns. I don't think 100% of his focus is on the game. I don't.
So
as much as it needs to be. So
do you think he could still? So we can all three of us agree he's not moved on from the Browns. He's still. It's like the the ex-girlfriend. You can't stop thinking about them. You're pissed off, but like at the same time, like you can be not moved on, but still win the game. You could still use that and perform well. He might be like the team might still be in his head, but they're still going, you can still play well with that. And Baker, he likes to show off a lot. He loves to, he does not keep things in his head. He loves to express himself. And whether or not, like I said, whether or not they win the game is a completely different argument, but he's still going to do something. I wouldn't rule out him being able to do something and performing well. I just wouldn't rule that out. I don't.
As long as it's 2020 Baker that shows up. I mean, if it's last year's Baker, forget about it. But if it's if it's truly 2020 Baker, the Baker that beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh in the playoffs, my confidence is behind Baker.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. That's all I'm saying. We'll see. I'm just stating what I know is going to happen. we all know that Baker's going to do something.
Yeah.
And it'll probably be funny. And the fact that the Browns took such a massive L, they moved on from their number 1 overall pick quarterback, traded for Deshaun Watson, who was a highly touted quarterback, big time. You know, he had a lot of hype around him, big time market. They won, and now they're going to be without him for 11 games. It's just such a Browns thing. It's hilarious. But we do have to move on. So Tom Brady has officially returned to the Buccaneers, but things still aren't all perfect there. Very banged up team. We're going to talk about that next. Don't go anywhere. You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. This is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown.
Welcome back to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Fans Only Sports Network. Adam Wright here with CJ Medieros, special guest Brady Cuoto. Did I get it right?
Got it.
There we go.
I knew you could do it.
Second time's the charm. Second time's the charm. But so Tom Brady has finally returned from his, about a week-long absence. But their offensive line is now kind of banged up. So Ryan Jensen was already gone with a torn ACL. And Aaron Stinney, who was projected to fight out for that left guard position that's still kind of been open, torn ACL and MCL, he's done for the year. And on top of that, on a lesser extent, Tristan Wirfs day-to-day, strained oblique. Now, the significance to that is that Tristan Wirfs was not able to play the last game of the season for injuries, and you could make a case that was the reason they lost in the divisional round. That Tom Brady didn't have enough protection. Now we're going into this season, and 2 of their possible starters are already done for the season, and there's Wirfs who's already banged up. So, guys, for Tom Brady's age 45 season, how concerned should we be about him putting up the best possible performance he can? We'll start with you, Brady.
All right. Well, first of all, let me just say I'm totally buying the Masked Singer rumors. That's why he was gone. I'm buying them a lot, and I think it's too coincidental. Number 2, it's Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady, the greatest ever. Yeah, it's a concern. Don't get me wrong, it is. But you know what? When they have as balanced of an offense as they do, right, with Leonard Fournette, I know Brett Shaw was talking about that Rashad White. I think it was Brett was talking about Rashad White, the rookie coming in. And you have weapons. I mean, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, all 3, when fully healthy, top, I dare say, top 25 wide receivers in this league. So as much, and Cameron Bray, O.J. Howard as well, 2 solid tight ends, where, you know what? The absence of Jensen and Stinney and possibly Wirfs, it's going to be felt, but at the same time, I mean, it's Tom Brady. I think he's the greatest ever. He'll make it work. So, not really that concerned. I'm not.
Yeah, Tom Brady. I mean, I'll second you on that, but I'll get to my take on this in a second. But CJ, what do you think?
Now, Adam, Brady. I am aware that it is Tom Brady, and I have heard tell of his accomplishments. Alas,
unless you live under a rock.
Yeah, which some do. Let's not.
Yeah.
But seriously, 2/3 of your interior offensive line is gone. Ryan Jensen is a top 10 center. Aaron Stinney, he's solid, but still, you'd rather have him than some practice squad scrub. And a lot of people don't realize how important the position of the center is. with, excuse me, a reliable communication system with the quarterback, good chemistry. They had to basically be on each other's brainwaves. And when you really think about it, that's going to be missing. And we've seen it before, Adam, when our center David Andrews was hurt, and there was like a lot of miscommunication between Brady and Karras that one season. Oh, I don't like it. And he's 45. I am aware, like I said, that it's Tom Brady, but he's 45. He can't take the hits like he used to. And if there's one thing you do not want your elite yet old quarterback to do, it's take unnecessary hits. I would say proceed with caution. Maybe like change the playbook a little so we can get the ball out just a little faster, because you do not want to risk anything. And I get injuries happen, but this is, I am a little bit worried. I'm not going to say, oh, they're going to miss the playoffs, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on.
All right. So the way I've always looked at it with the Buccaneers, with Tom Brady, and even the Patriots, is the formula to their success is to protect Tom Brady. And as long as he's on his own 2 feet, he's going to pick you apart. But if he's always pressured, throwing off his back foot and getting sacked from behind, getting destroyed by blindside hits, then it becomes much more difficult for them to win games. And take it from a Patriots fan who has watched him for 20 years and somebody who's still been paying attention to him in his Buccaneer days. It's been the same thing. And for example, we look at this past divisional round, they lost Tristan Wirfs and Ryan Jensen was banged up. So Tom Brady was throwing off his back foot for half the game. They still almost won, but I mean, if that offensive line was intact for that game, they win. So it's really night and day the way it works. I know he's Tom Brady, but his mobility is limited. It's been limited his entire career. So there's only so much he can do when he's on his ass half the time. So this is very concerning for me. I really hope they do something to address their offensive line, make a trade, sign someone in free agency, do something, because I don't love what's going on at that offensive line. They probably should have addressed the guard position a little more seriously during the draft, because that was still a hole that needs to be filled. And now Aaron Stinney, this guy who is actually making some noise during camp, he's out. Who are they going to replace him with? So it's not looking good at all for that offensive line. And I hope Tom Brady has a good age 45 season. I do. I've been waiting for a long time to see him do this. And if he's to get hurt, or if he's not able to get the ball out as little time as he's able to, then it's going to be a tough season for him. It's going to be a tough season for that Buccaneers team. And you got to question whether or not they're even a Super Bowl favorite if the offensive line is going to be this way.
No, I don't think they'd be a Super Bowl favorite, but I mean, I think they would still win the division. I mean, overall, the division is not very good, but I think one person, I'm just looking here, one person they could target is, oh my God, I'm gonna butcher his name pronunciation, Kelechi Osemele, something like that. I know he was on the Chiefs, he was on the Jets for a stretch, a reliable veteran that they could possibly bring in just to fill in that void at the left guard, maybe. There's just one name that came to mind. I don't believe he's on a team right now. But at the same time, they brought Shaq Mason in on the right side, which is good. So, I mean, at least a piece that he knows, and a guy in Shaq that, or a guy in Shaq Mason that Tom's familiar with is there. But no, I mean, I agree with the fact that they're not a Super Bowl contender if, the majority of this offensive line isn't 100% healthy or 90 to 95% healthy. But I think they're still the favorites to win the division, just considering the competition around them. Like, if you put them in the AFC East, forget about it. All right, you put them in the NFC West, forget about it. Like, they're not winning the division. But the NFC South, Saints are they're going to be all right. Panthers may make a run. Falcons, God bless them. I mean, I still think they win the division.
Godspeed to them.
Oh yeah.
But so you don't see the Saints as a threat to you? That's
mean,
a team that you just
not a huge one. I think they could make some noise like they did last year, maybe slide into that final wild card spot. But a threat to win the division, not yet. Not yet. If Michael Thomas is Michael Thomas from 4 or 5 years ago, sure. But they really need Michael Thomas to be 100% in it, 100% healthy, whatever the case may be.
and I think he's already hurt with like an oblique
Yeah,
strain
No,
or
a
something
hamstring.
like that.
Yeah, he pulled
Yeah,
his hammy.
like a minor hamstring thing. So
They need
it's
him.
already
Yeah.
it's already not looking great for them. But
Yeah.
either way,
and, Adam,
I do. What's up?
I just want to bring this one thing up, right? So I was talking about the importance of the interior offensive line, and I have here Tampa's schedule. They are going to face some scary defensive tackles. You know, there's guys like Cameron Jordan. He plays on the edge, but he's deadly when he plays inside. There's guys like Kenny Clark on the Green Bay Packers, Chris Jones of the Chiefs. Heck, the Falcons have a really good DT in Grady Jarrett. They have to play him twice a year.
Yeah.
The Panthers have
but the
Derek
Falcons
Brown. They
they're
have to
beating the
play
Falcons,
them.
though.
They have to play them. I'm just talking about good DTs because,
I know.
they deal with the interior. You also
Sure.
have Cameron Hayward, Brandon Williams, and who could forget Aaron Donald and other guys like Eric Armstead too. So, yeah, they're facing some pretty scary defensive tackles this year. And I'm not talking about the team itself, but if you're facing an elite defensive tackle when the interior of your line is hurt, that is a recipe for failure. Well, I won't say failure, but it's concerning.
Yeah, I mean, as you said it, you really said it. I mean, and like the tackle position is obviously one that is more valuable, but that's only because it's rare to find really good tackles. But like on the interior is equally as important because at least if you're beaten on the edges, the quarterback can step up. If you're beaten on the inside, the quarterback's going to be forced to throw off his back foot, which makes for some scary throws down the middle that could wind up as picks. So every position has some sort of importance, but we do need to move on, and we're going to go to Brady's guest segment where he's going to do a very early preview on the college football playoffs. So that's next. You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast. You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Fans Only Sports Network. Adam Wright with CJ Medieros, special guest Brady Cuoto. And we've reached the guest segment of this show where Brady is going to do a very early preview of the college football playoffs. So, Brady, what do you got?
All right. So, obviously, we all know how big the college football playoff is. 4 teams get in. They really need to expand it. I've said that for years. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in my prediction for the college football playoff. I think we got maybe 3 locks and then one team maybe like, yeah, a little much. But I think at the same time, listen to my explanation. It's going to make sense. First and foremost, I think
I'm sorry, Brady. You're breaking up a little bit. Could you repeat that? Brady. Can you hear me?
Coming off that they, in a way, got stronger. Bryce
CJ,
Young comes back a year older.
Are you getting this too?
Yeah, it's happening with me too.
All right. Would you be able to start over on some of your predictions? I'll
start over. Sure.
You were breaking up.
Oh, I apologize.
No worries.
my
Go
two
ahead.
locks for the playoff, right? And I have one more likely than not will get it, and another maybe. So one of my locks is the Alabama Crimson Tide. For several reasons. One, I know they just lost the national championship game to arguably the greatest defense ever in college football history. But Bryce Young's a Jermaine Burton from Georgia. They're top wide.
This is it his internet connection?
I don't know.
Brady, can you hear us? Because he keeps on, every time I hear him cut back in, then he's still talking. So I don't know if he hears us still.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah, this isn't good. Brady, can you hear me? Would you be able to exit and then come back in? Jeez, this is not good. Here, maybe I'll kick him out real quick. And would you be able to DM him on Instagram real quick and tell him just exit and then come back in?
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, this is not good for our time.
No.
Especially since you guys are going to get 32 fan box responses that we're going to. So we asked you guys to predict your favorite team's record, and we got some fun ones. So that one's going to be a good one. And we'll do that as soon as we're over with this college football segment that Brady's doing. As soon as he can get back in, we apologize for the technical difficulties, but sometimes, here he is. Sometimes the internet isn't so great and we'll cut in and out. Sometimes it happens with me. Can you hear me now?
All right.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Is that
Yes.
I don't understand.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. What's the last thing you heard me say?
Alabama lost to the
so
greatest
you
defense
go over
ever.
your locks and go over a couple of your previews. Just
all right. I need
just hit the ground running.
All right. Alabama's getting in because they got stronger and they got weaker at the same time. But I'm gonna give them the edge. They bring Jermaine Burton, Georgia's top wide receiver. They bring back Will Anderson, leader of that amazing defense. I think they get in. Ohio State is my second one. CJ Stroud is a year under its belt. They didn't lose anyone ginormous. And I think, Jackson Smith and Jigba. They lost Wilson and Olave, but at the same time, Smith and Jigba was a really good wide receiver 3. Freshman. I think he had about 10 touchdowns last year, something like that. They're young. They're hungry. I think they get in as the 2. So I'm going to go Bama 1, Ohio State 2. My third is Georgia. And I know Georgia's losing their top 2 wide receivers, George Pickens, Jermaine Burton. I understand that. But as long as the majority of that defense is still there, Stetson Bennett's the quarterback, they're going to be fine. I know he's not great, but you know what? Stetson Bennett, the mailman, he gets the job done. And that's what Georgia needs. They need people to get the job done. It's the defense for them. That's what's going to be key. And then the fourth one is USC. And I say USC for several reasons. One of them being Lincoln Riley. The air raid is coming to Pasadena. Now, I know the stigma around the Pac-12 and the college football playoff. Pac-12, that's not as good, blah, blah, blah. Shut up. Caleb Williams comes in from Oklahoma. He took the job from Spencer Rattler. I now, granted, Spencer Rattler's not good. I've said that. I would always say that. They're like, I honest to God, I remember when they were like, Spencer Rattler will win the Heisman. I'm like, y'all are out of your mind. Caleb Williams stole the job from Spencer Rattler. I shouldn't say stole. Earned the job over Spencer Rattler. And he goes to South Carolina. He'll be mediocre, in my opinion. They bring in Jordan Addison, the Biltonkopf winner at Pitt. Now, granted, I don't think he should have left because they brought in Keaton Slovis, the USC quarterback from last year. But nonetheless, you bring in the defense that wasn't bad. I think the USC really could have been something if Clay Helton wasn't the coach. I think that was their biggest weakness, is Helton's playmaking and decision making. Lincoln comes in, and maybe they don't make it this year. That's fine. They're going to get into the next 4 years. because Lincoln is a top-notch recruiter. All this talent, Mater Dei High School, that's one of the elite high schools in Southern California. I think all he's going to do is just plug in talent. So you know what? I'm putting my money on USC in I don't want to say weaker Pac-12, because like if they lose like one game a year, it's going to be to like Oregon. But other than that, they're better than UCLA. They're better than Arizona State. They're better than Colorado. In other talent, Notre Dame. Notre Dame lost a lot. I don't think Notre Dame's going to be very good. I think their ceiling is probably 10-2. Texas A&M. The committee's not going to put 3 teams from the SEC in. And you know what? A&M's the third best team in the SEC, second to Bama and Georgia. Utah. You know what? I think Utah, they're all right. They lost a lot. And I don't know how much better they're going to get. And then there's the ACC, Clemson. Oh my God. What's his face? Uyagulala. I don't know how to say his name. I just know he's awful. All right. So you know what? Maybe Pitt. Maybe Pitt can get in, but Slovis has to have the best season of his career. And I think Addison hasn't been great. That move hasn't been great. So I'll go quickly. Bama 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, and I really, really think USC can get the job done, go 11-1, and get that 4 spot.
Well, there you have it. So Brady has those 4 teams going into the college football playoffs. Do you have a champ? Who's your winner? Are we having the issues again?
No. He's just thinking, I think.
All right. I think it will be Bama. I really do. I want to see another Bama Ohio State final. But you know what? I'm high on USC, and I hope they don't disappoint me. I'm not a USC fan. I just really like what's going on over there. So you know what? I would not mind a Bama. Maybe USC can sign up to a 3. I don't know, but I really think Bama. I'll just say Bama Ohio State to be safe. I think Bama will get the job done again, and then Bryce Young will go be the number 1 pick of the draft.
All right, there you go. So. I think my basic take here on college football is that I'm glad they're finding ways to that other teams are finding ways to recruit good talent, because in the past it's always been Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson. Those are all getting the high up there recruits because they're Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson. And now that might make for a more even playing field going into this season. And we could see new teams going in there. We know there was that controversy where Nick Saban called out Texas's head coach for his recruiting, their recruiting ways, where they were doing the NILs.
NIL.
Exactly. Yep. Now it's legal.
Hey, you got that from me.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly where I got it from. All right. Well, we're going to move on to the Fumblerooski fan box, where we are going to talk about everyone's prediction on their favorite teams. I kind of wanted to see if people would be honest or something. I'm curious. What do people predict their favorite teams to finish? So we're going to get to that next. Don't go anywhere. This is the Fumblerooski podcast. Welcome back. You're listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Fans Only Sports Network. I'm Adam Wright, CJ Medieros, special guest Brady Cuoto. So we've reached close to the end of our show, and that means we are on to the Fumblerooski fan box. So we post a question filter on our Instagram every Monday, and you can respond with hot takes, questions, and more and we will discuss it and give you a shout out on our podcast. Respond to next week's Fanbox question to be featured on our show. So the question of the week, and again, it's not really a question, it's more like a request. It's an order.
A command.
It's a command. Predict your favorite team's regular season record. All right. So I figured this would be good. So we'll lead off with Ian Mulhern, who said Panthers 7-10. I'd say that's pretty. Yeah,
I can see that. Not
I can
much.
see it.
Good for him.
He knows what's going on down there. Cash Withers, who's a Cowboys fan, said 11-6 Cowboys. That's a tough one because
perhaps
like
I think
they
it's a
won't finish 12. They won't finish 12-5 like they did last year, but they could be still good. They're the best thing that could happen to them is they stay the same because they lost some pieces and they kind of replaced them. It's weird there, but Patrick Kozak said Dolphins 12-6.
I think he means 12-5.
Yeah, so that was I think 12-5 or 11-6, but they could wind up around there. I could see it. Depends on how Tua plays, but it's hard. It's hard to play poorly with that team around him. Like it really is.
Yep.
Yeah, they have no reason to fail. I've said that like a million times.
Oh,
I think more like 10-7,
and his name is Tua Tagovailoa.
I think more like 10-7 territory.
Yeah,
is more fair.
I mean, when you're in division with Buffalo, like I don't know. Like,
that should be like 10-7.
Buffalo will be the 12-5. Buffalo will be like the 12. And Buffalo, Miami, New England, the Jets. I think is honestly how the AFCs will go.
Probably 10-7 should be your floor. And if you finish there and you're the Miami Dolphins, as talented as you are, that's a disappointment. That team has talent everywhere, and you have a good young quarterback. You drafted number 4 overall. But Diego Huerta said Broncos 11-6. This is pretty fair.
Yeah, I see nothing wrong with it.
I could see it. 11-6, 12-5. I think that's an area where they could finish. They have talent everywhere. Just that's a team that's all really been thrown together. New quarterback, new offensive system. So I could see them having a tough start, but they'll probably pick it up. Grayson Mortimer. So I guess so the way he looks at Patriots teams is like almost like his as if it's like a nationality. He goes like, I'm part Pats fan, I'm part Bills fan. So I get and he does, I guess he has a respect for it because his dad was a Bills fan, and it makes sense. It's just that I could see that being tough because they're division rivals. But he said Pats 10-7, Bills 15-2. That's reasonable, I would say.
Yeah, I mean for the Pats, but 15-2.
For the Bills, I can see it.
For the Bills, I mean I could see it, but it's a little high. I mean maybe 14-3, 13-4 maybe, but I don't know. Because there's always I was just gonna say for a team like the Bills, there's always those maybe 1, 2, 3 games that you lose, but that you have no business losing. But those upsets are darn near impossible to predict. So
I think it's more of a long shot that the Pats finish 10-7 than it is for the Bills to go 15-2. To be honest, I have
no idea what New England's gonna do at this point. It's they're the wild card.
Because that Bills team is actually really good. They should be able to win a lot of games. And they had some trouble last year, but things are looking good for them. And they kind of hit their stride late in the last season. So I could see it. I could really see it. But Robert Canedo said 11-6 Patriots.
As a Pats fan, I think that's a bit of a reach.
That's a reach.
I would say 9-8, 10-7 is like her ceiling, perhaps.
That's like everything goes right for the Patriots and everything goes wrong for all the teams in all the other teams in the division. And that even then I would probably still see the Bills winning that division. So and thanks for the response, but I love the Patriots. I love my Pats. I'm going to watch them even if they suck. If they go 0-17, I'll still watch them, but they're not going 11-6. Connor Fallon, 6-10 Bears. I'll say that's fair.
Yeah, a little high, but I can get down with it.
Because they still have talent. Their defense is depleted, but their offense still has pieces. Justin Fields, I still think has talent. He's in a poor situation. They have a nice running back. That offensive line's going to get Fields killed. That's kind of my basic take. Jack Breel, and he kind of also has two favorite teams. So Bears 4-12, again fair. Cowboys 11-5. So I understand the struggle with the new extended season, because even I catch myself saying like, oh, they're going to go 12-4, they're going to go 13-3, and now we add the extra game. It just feels weird. So Bears 4-12 makes sense. Cowboys, 4-13, 5, both of these like records roughly make sense, besides the fact that it's not a 16-game season anymore. But it's don't worry about it, Jack. We all make the same mistakes. It's kind of fresh this new season. I don't know how I feel about it. It's more football, but like saying 13-4 instead of 13-3, I don't know.
They never should have added that extra game. Changed my mind.
Yeah. Tyson Tate said Vikings 12-5. That's a bit of a stretch, but if everything goes right for them, I can see it. Yeah, he is an avid Vikings fan.
Yeah, and I respect the Vikings. I really do. But 12-5 with that defense.
I'm thinking more like 10-7.
10-7. So I could see 11-6 for them.
Yeah, I could too.
Okay. Because that team is it's going to be more a better run offensive scheme with the talent they have. Yeah, and I think their defense has improved. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to have a big turnaround this year. Nick Norman said Steelers beat the odds and go 10-7. That is bold. And I got to say no. That would mean that either Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett actually do well. And Trubisky has had some serviceable years, not years to pick up in a less than satisfactory offensive line and be able to work with George Pickens as their top wide receiver. Very talented guy, but he might have some discipline issues. And at least we could say all we want about how we hate Ben Roethlisberger. At least he was able to work with those characters that they had going. Yeah, at least he was able to work with them to an extent. And there were some characters he had to work with.
Oh, yeah.
Eli Turner said Broncos 11-6 and Bears, and in parentheses, second favorite. So Bears are his second favorite team. 6-11. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair for both.
Both are reasonable.
I can see it.
Isaac Zonana, let me know if I have the pronunciation right. 11-12 wins for the Finns.
Yep.
That should be the expectation for them.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I would say 10 wins is like your floor. If you go under 10 wins, delete the franchise and Madden. No, I'm kidding. Start over.
Yeah, if it like at that point, but even 10 wins is a disappointment. I would say even 11. With the 11, talent you have,
I feel like 12 is like their ceiling, but
with the talent they have, if you have Tua Tagovailoa, who is drafted 4th overall, this highly touted prospect, and you go anything less than 11 wins with this stacked roster, that's on Tua. That's a big problem. Give Tom Brady this roster, and I'm questioning whether or not they lose a game. But now we have Tua, and we're thinking it's a good thing that they're winning 11 games. I'm sorry, but if you're a high draft pick, you better perform. You need to perform. That's the way I look at it. But JZ8 Hockey, he just doesn't have a name that is stated in his Instagram. Bucks 11-6. That's with their offensive line. That's reasonable.
I don't know. I feel like maybe he's underselling him a little bit, but with the O-line, that's unfortunately true.
If their line was more healthy, then I would say they 13-4 to repeat 13-4.
Yeah,
but now they're having some trouble there. Luke Banning said Packers fan 12-5. So
that's a bit of a stretch.
That's a stretch.
I mean, I know Rodgers is good, but like that receiver core, I believe I once referred to them as paper plates because they are.
He said they were getting better.
Yeah, because he had to say that after the media tore him a new one for calling him out.
Say anything. He didn't have to say anything.
It's they don't have like they'll be competitive, but it won't be because of their passing game. It'll be because they have two solid backs and they have a defense that's still improving. That has gotten. I will say the front office has done an incredible job on that defense. That secondary is arguably the best in the league, and their front seven is starting to get to that level as well. So I really love what they've done on the defense. Their running game is good. Their passing game's lacking a little bit.
Yeah,
and I know Rodgers will help out a little bit, but
if they're going to succeed, it's going to be the run game. I mean, we all know Aaron Jones. You got AJ Dillon, who he don't skip leg day. All right, he's a beast. He was great at Boston College. Quad God. I remember watching him at Boston College. I was like, you know what? I really hope he becomes something. And but he's got a home in Green Bay. I really think he's the most underrated running back in the league. That's how much I know he can do well.
He might take over. He might take over that backfield.
I think he's deserving of it. I mean, he really, really is. I mean, he's not as so much of a pass catcher as Aaron Jones is, but you know what? When you can run for 6 yards a carry, who cares if you can catch passes or not? As much as they may need it. But I mean, you know what? I'm sorry. I mean, I think they're gonna. Rodgers will make something out of nothing, and I think you know what? You're gonna struggle. I mean, I know Allen Lazard should not be wide receiver one. I understand.
Even Rodgers has his limits, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I still think they're better than the Vikings.
I disagree.
Defensively,
that's gonna be a tough one. Defensively, they're better, and the rushing game is, I would say, about even. But
sure,
the passing game is really gonna kill them. I just think it's that bad for him. I know Rodgers will make it satisfactory. He'll make it okay, but yeah, we do need to continue moving along with these. Zachary Stilson, so he picked two teams as well. He said Ravens 12-5, Broncos 11-6. So 11. It seems like everyone has the Broncos 11-6, which is that's fair. That's a good prediction. Ravens 12-5 is going to be tough.
Yeah, Justin Tucker is somewhere smiling right now.
He loves it. I see 11-6 at best.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Patrick Williver said Cowboys 10-7. I like that. I think that team is.
That's fair.
They're about 2 games worse than they were last year. I'll say that much.
Sure.
Two games worse and maybe a wild card round exit again. All right. So Mal the golf gal, and I think that I don't know if I didn't look at her profile to see if she actually has her name put in, but it says Mal the golf gal here. Chiefs 13-4. Nah, sorry.
Nope.
That receiver core is a little.
No. I've said it before. I'll be glad to say it again. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to finish in last place in that division.
Whoa.
They're going to finish in last place in that division. It's going to go Chargers, Raiders, Broncos, Chiefs.
Listen, you have Patty Mahomes behind a good offensive line, then you're going to make things happen. Because it's Patty. It's Patrick. Sorry, Mrs. Mahomes, but
the defense still asks questions. Juju Smith-Schuster cannot be your number one wide receiver. And you know what? You're playing in a division where another team just got the best wide receiver in the National Football League. Yeah. I mean, as much as I think that, the Chargers are going to win the division. No questions asked. There is no doubt in my mind.
I agree on that one. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Derwin James, they just locked up. Jackson, they bring in Khalil Mack. Yeah, that's all great. And then it's a dogfight for 2 and 3, I think, between the Raiders and the Broncos, because I really think these teams are very, very even.
All right.
Obviously, except the quarterback position.
I'm sorry. So look at the quarterback position and the wide receiver position. Which would you rather have? The best quarterback in the league behind a good offensive line, or like a wide receiver with a very good quarterback who's behind a kind of suspect offensive line? Which would you rather have?
I'm taking the quarterback, but at the same time, when I'm comparing the teams, I'm not focusing in on that. Like if I'm making like a chart, Chiefs Raiders, I'm giving the Chiefs the edge in the quarterback and the offensive line department. But I'd give the Raiders the edge in the running back department. I'd give the Raiders the edge in the wide receiver department. And then defense, I mean, they brought in Chandler Jones. They brought in Rocky Sin, Anthony Averett, guys that, you know what, they're not the names. But Averett didn't have a bad year with the Ravens. Rocky Sin had a good year with the Colts. So, you know what, it's not the names. But at the same time, I mean, it's just the Chiefs defense. They always, every year, they just ask questions. And they just raise questions. And you take Tyreek Hill away, and you take DeMarcus Robinson away too. He's now a free agent. So 2 of the big 3 for Mahomes' targets. Kelsey's still there, obviously. I don't know. As good as Mahomes is, he's yet to be tested without a true number 1 wide receiver.
So he has. I look at this. So they lost Tyreek Hill, which is probably the biggest blow they had. You have Travis Kelce still, who's used mainly as a wide receiver. I mean, he's kind of a wide receiver. Then you have, so to replace Tyreek Hill, they kind of brought in 2 guys, Marquez Valdes-Scantling to replace to some degree the deep ball threat. You brought in Juju Smith-Schuster to replace Tyreek Hill's explosiveness underneath, and so. Those 2 on the field, they don't make up Tyreek Hill, but they're serviceable to at least make the Chiefs competitive. And then on top of that, you still have Mecole Hardman, who is good at the jet sweeps. He's also great underneath as well. He hasn't had the biggest role because he's been stuck behind a lot of pieces. But if you give Patrick Mahomes an offensive line and some serviceable pieces, and you still have a great tight end in Travis Kelce, I think he's gonna do something with that. I do, and I know their offense has some questions, but I think they can make it work. I do. But we do need to move forward because we still have a lot of responses left. Landon Weber said Seahawks 4-12, so it's a 17-game season, but past that, yeah, I'd say that's reasonable. Yeah. They might win a few more games than that. Maybe 6 games because they have some pieces on offense. And I think Drew Lock at his best could be okay. But that offensive line doesn't look good. Their defense sucks. Yeah, but they won't have a good record. They're going to finish last. Danny Hope said Bears 6-10. Did we have another person who said 6-10 as well?
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah. We're struggling with a 17-game season here.
You
but
can tell who the Bears fans are in this. Sorry.
Damn.
I mean,
we're
you know what?
guys.
I love Justin Fields, but I'm sorry. I mean, it's the defense. I'm telling you.
And the O-line and his weapons.
And the O-line. They're not going to be as good. I mean, it's not I've heard more outrageous things, but I mean, I think honestly, the 4-13, 4 and whatever is probably more realistic.
Yeah. All right. So Jack Hartman said Browns 12-5. All 5 of those losses come while Watson is out. I mean, you're right about one thing. They're going to lose a lot of games with Watson out.
Yeah.
But can they make up for that at 12-5? So that means they're going to have a winning record without Baker Mayfield. Or excuse me.
Without Watson.
Without force of habit. Without Watson.
He thinks apparently they're going 6-5 without Watson, which I don't know.
I mean,
they'd have to bite, scratch, and claw for it, but I would also have to see their I'd have to see their schedule too. But Jacob and let me know about the pronunciation. Jacob Grajales. There's a J in
I think
there.
it's Grajales.
Yeah, I think it's that. Grajales. Let me know in the comments. Browns 8-9. That's more realistic for the Browns, but I could see them picking it up. I could see them sneaking into a wild card spot. So they'll be getting Watson for 7 games. So if they remain like kind of treading water, then I could see it happening. But Tiny Tim Adventures, another person without their full name in their Instagram bio. Bills 12-5. So I believe that's what you had, Brady.
Spot on.
12-5.
Yeah, that's fair.
That should kind of be the expectation there, too.
4. 12 and 5, that range. 12 and 5, 13 and 4, absolutely.
Yep. All right. Nosebleed Baseball said Vikings 11 and 6. Like I said, I think 11 and 6 is kind of a spot they could be in. I think, and again, I do have them as the division champions there. And again, like I don't think the Packers are going to be bad, Brady. I don't think they will. They'll be competitive. Yeah. As long as they have Rodgers, they'll be at least okay. And they have a good defense and 2 good running backs, but the Vikings I have as the favorite, better overall, better all around team. Bryant Johnson said Colts 11 and 6. So yeah, I'd say that's a good one. I think that's good. They should win that division unless the Titans just pick up some sort of steam. Derrick Henry finds his old form. This wide receiver they took, Traylon Burks, is able to replace A.J. Brown's production level.
That kid's going to be amazing. I mean, he is going to be like they could not have picked anyone better in the draft to replace A.J. Brown.
I mean, physically, he's a clone.
Oh, he is great hands. Great. I remember watching him at Arkansas last year. You were like, oh my God, he's going to do something. And he's in the perfect situation too to thrive, in my opinion. He's gonna have a breakout. I know fantasy was last episode, but you talk about a sleeper at the wide receiver spot. Oh, Traylon Burks, 100%.
Oh hell, definitely, hell yeah. All right, Jack Robb said Browns win at least 10 games.
I can't guarantee anything.
That if they make the playoffs, it'll probably be at 10 wins. That's what I'll say. If they can stay afloat. So you have 7 games with Watson, and you have 11 without him. So you need to probably win at least, let's say, at least 4 games. You need to win without Watson. Then you have to win at least 6 of those 7. So yeah, I could see it. I could see them winning 10 games. It's going to be tough for them, but all right, Nate Moats. And again, let me know about the pronunciation. It's Moatz. He said commies 7 and 9, and he's talking about the Commanders.
You know how we feel about commies on this show.
And again, 7 and 9. That's 16 games. Again, we're figuring it out too, because it's just a force of habit. But I mean, that's pretty fair. They have a decent team around them. Their upside is limited with Carson Wentz.
I'm going to say, who's the quarterback on that team? Carson Wentz, yeah.
It's Wentz.
7
and
10.
I do feel bad about Wentz because he's still serviceable when he plays. Like he just hasn't reached the level that he was in 2017, which has screwed him over.
Yeah.
But Enrico Hernandez said 49ers 11 and 6. That's fair. I'll take that one. Diego M. Again, he had the first letter of his last name, but his name is Diego, so I'll say that much. Chargers 12 and 5.
Yep.
Yeah, that could happen. That's reasonable. Yeah,
I have them winning the division. Actually, Brady, did you know that Brett has the Chargers finishing dead last in that division? He thinks they're going to fall apart.
I don't know what he's. I'll have to talk. Maybe a little too much baseball. No, I'm kidding. I love Brett. He's great. but who did he? Oh, he had the Broncos winning it, right?
No, he had Kansas City.
Oh, he did. And he's a writer for the Broncos. That's shocking. I figured honestly he'd have the Broncos winning it, but I mean, I don't understand. I know Herbert.
It's the coaching that's the issue.
Yeah.
I don't hate their coach Staley. I don't hate him. Anthony Lynn was god awful. I mean he was really
Staley either, but
Staley. I mean, he's not bad. He
totally bungled a game where it's win and you're in.
Oh yeah, that was bad. And then I just saw here J.C. Jackson's out 2 to 4 weeks. So you know what? Last place, no, but I mean, it's the best division in football without question. I mean,
that much we can agree on. Looking at it, okay, we went through finding my place. Chris Hetu said Patriots 10 and 7. That's probably the best they can do. Like
That's
10 and
their
7 is
ceiling.
probably the best they can do.
Mm-hmm.
And like they need a lot to go right for them and a lot to go wrong for the rest of the division for them to do any better than that. Chase McGinty said Eagles 12-5. I really
Perhaps.
do like the Eagles this year.
I don't hate it.
Maybe 11-6.
Yeah, it's a put up or shut up year for Hurts.
But if Hurts is going to put up on any roster, it's this one. They have some good pieces everywhere. So this will work out for them. I think their coaching is a bit of a question mark, but we'll see how it all goes. Cola DJ said Dolphins 11-6. So like I said, like I could see it happening. Just if you're a Dolphins fan, your expectations should be higher than 11-6. You have a top four pick quarterback from the 2020 draft in Tua Tagovailoa, and this guy, and you also have a great roster around you. And this quarterback is going into what? This is week 3 for him. That's usually the put up year for the quarterback when you determine whether or not they're good.
Yeah.
So you have the top 4 pick. You should be expecting much more than 11 wins. You should be expecting 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And here we have Steven Parker, the Bengals 13-4.
I don't know about that. Super Bowl hangover is real.
And
especially for the loser.
And like everything on any other, like you look at every other factor with this Bengals team. They improved in the spots they needed to improve in.
Yep.
And they also they're going like Joe Burrow is going to have time to throw. So you're not going to get your quarterback killed anymore. But that Super Bowl hangover, and I don't like that it's a thing because it's not analytical by any sense of the word. Because it's literally an argument from emotion. Like teams lose the Super Bowl, they can't get over it, and even if you have your ducks in a row, you're not the same the next year. And I hate it because it doesn't make sense. But it is a thing. And they might have a good regular season record, but they're going to have a tough time overcoming the Super Bowl hangover. And it's weird because the Super Bowl hangover is only a thing for the loser, and the winner can still. I mean, it's still hard to win back-to-back Super Bowls, but I'll put it this way. I find it harder to win a Super Bowl after losing it than to go back-to-back. If you go back-to-back, you can ride out the momentum. Maybe you can improve your team. You might lose a few pieces, but I see a better chance in that than to go back to the Super Bowl and win it after losing it the past year. Yeah. But that's all the responses. But do you guys have anything else before we end the show tonight?
Nope.
No.
All right. Well, Brady, thank you very much for joining the show. But that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. Be sure to tune into us live Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:30 on Twitter and Facebook through Fans Only Sports Network. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have all our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and so much more. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcast and the latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Over and out.